everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Gee Whiz Weekends. I'm Emerald Fox.
I'm Lynette Zhang.
Each week we're going to be grabbing a post from social media regarding the current economy. I'm going to be asking some questions of Lynette.
Hope I can answer them.
Things that make me say gee
Right.
whiz, things that I'm confused about, and things I want to delve into a little bit further. So without further ado, we'll jump right in.
And I have no idea what she's going to ask me.
That's right. All right, so
Okay.
this post is from USA Today.
Okay.
It's from February 10th, and it says, "Are economists coming for your 401k? Some argue that they're not worth it, and here's why." And they delve into talking about how economists from either side of the aisle are saying that the government should stop allowing pre-tax contributions to these retirement accounts like 401ks and IRAs, saying that those funds should be directed to the Social Security, that underfunded program. My question to you is, one, is that worth it? Is that going to solve the disparity between the average $1,800 Social Security disbursement check as opposed to the average spending of a 65-plus-year-old being around $4,300?
Right. There is so much to unpack in
It's a
that
lot.
question, okay?
Yes.
So let's take it one step at a time.
Okay.
And I think you have to remember that prior to 1971, companies were doing defined benefits plans. So the challenges of getting a higher investment return to pay out those benefits fell on the corporations. But they started to transition that in the 70s, and that's when they came out with the IRAs. In the 80s were the 401ks. And now, instead of defined benefit plans, where the onus is on the corporation. I mean, there are defined benefit plans out there. I'm just setting this up so I can answer
Sure.
this question. Okay. Then it was defined contribution plans. So the challenges or the risks transferred of funding your retirement transferred from the corporations to the individuals. Now, what's the benefit to the government for that? Well, if you accumulate wealth or you buy into the stock market, first of all, it keeps Wall Street going and all the fees that are hidden and you can't see them. But also the government sees what you have in there. And they can rule and determine how you will take that distribution, which means that they can determine how they will tax you. Now, this is critical to what you just asked, because that's the way governments generate most of their income, is through that taxation.
Okay.
And when you look at Social Security or the other pay-as-you-go programs. So let me back up here to move forward, and then I'll tie the two together. Okay?
Yeah, great.
When they started Social Security, you're going back to 1933, right? When they first set that up. And there were 153 or 158 workers, contributors, for every one beneficiary. So what happened was there was lots of excess money from payroll, et cetera, that were going into the Social Security Trust Fund.
Okay.
And then the government, in their infinite wisdom and greed, borrowed that money and left a whole bunch of IOUs,
Right. Okay.
right? So the funding is not there. Now, Social Security began to run deficits in, I think it was 2013 or 2010, as I'm tail end baby boomer, but as the baby boomer generation, which was a huge generation, started to go into retirement. And so those deficits and what's in there are getting worse and worse and worse. So there's only so much of a limit that they can put on your earned income taxes. Okay?
Right.
So looking at that money sitting in those 401ks and sitting in those IRAs and those other retirement programs that's a pretty juicy nest egg for the government to look at and go, oh, look at this. We can now force that distribution, and they can, and they have
Right.
over the years.
RMDs.
They changed the rules to get that distribution, which then becomes a taxable event.
Okay.
So when they're talking about eliminating the tax advantages, and that's all it is. It's not you don't pay taxes on them.
Right.
It is just that the taxable event is postponed.
Yeah.
Right? So what they're talking about on both sides of the aisle are getting their hands on more of that money.
Right.
Now, what we saw recently, particularly in Europe, when they had the sovereign, so the government bond crisis back in 2013-14 in there, is a number, and in this country, we've talked about it. Our government has talked about this, doing what they call a one-off. So they would go into your retirement plan and take what they talked about was 11.5%. But if they could position it so that you think that they're only going to do it one time, then you don't change behavior. If you think that it's going to go on, and why would you fund it for them to just attach it?
Right.
Right? So they have some issues because governments keep spending. And the more wars and the more inflation and the higher interest rates, and I mean, all of this is just a mess. If you or I were doing that, quite honestly, we'd be living underneath a bridge.
Right.
But how can the government generate more income when they max out how much they can tax you, right? Well, they attach things that are not attached. Right? So those 401ks, the retirement programs, they can do a one-off, just go in and take it. They can force a distribution. Now you've got to pay taxes on it. They can, if they do disallow the tax advantage, then why would people actually put their money in there? So those unintended consequences of their actions is like whack-a-mole. Our government, our central banks are playing whack-a-mole. They're going to deal with this problem, and then another problem pops up here. They'll deal with that problem, and another problem will pop up here. So do I think that they're going to absolutely destroy the retirement program? Let's go globally on this, because there is a global retirement problem where a lot of the current defined benefits programs, right? Well, what are those based on? Stock market, bond market, real estate market, but all of these intangible markets that are severely overvalued. So even when you're looking, and what do people look at? They look at the stock market.
Right.
So if they open up their 401k statement and it looks okay, they go, oh wow, okay, everything must be okay. But that's not where we are in the trend cycle.
Right.
We are at the beginning of a hyperinflationary move. And the problem is that anybody that keeps their wealth inside of the system is going to lose everything. I have a retirement plan. I used to have a SEP IRA. I took my distribution, I paid my taxes on it, and I converted all of it to gold and silver.
And that was going to be my next question on that, because all of these accounts, and I've heard you say, of course, if you hold it, you own it. So if I'm holding money in a 401k account with increased inflation, even if that account looks like it's going up with increased inflation, is it really though? So wouldn't it be better to hold, take that tax hit and hold gold, something that has, as you say, intrinsic value.
Right, real value. And you don't hold a 401k or an IRA. Those are all intangibles.
Right.
Intangibles are so easy to steal because you don't hold it. And you make such a good point, Emerald, and I'm glad that you got this piece because it's important for everybody to get the fact that, yes, they make the stock market look like it's going up, but what's really happening is the purchasing power value of the dollar that's going down. And if they can keep that inflation low enough, like that 2% that they always talk about, then you don't change your behavior. This is called perception management. If they can manage how you move through things, well, then they get you right where they want you. But when you hold your gold right? Where are all these IRAs, 401ks, all of those stocks and bonds and ETFs and mutual funds and annuities and all of that, right? All of those are intangible,
Right.
and they're all being inflated away. And the only difference between inflation and hyperinflation is the speed of the inflation. And even when they tell you, oh, inflation is going down, the prices aren't going down.
Right.
Just the speed at which they're going up has slowed down in certain areas more. So by taking my distribution, paying my taxes, part of the strategy that I developed, starting with my studies in 1987, was it recoups that taxable event. It recoups any fees. It recoups any losses, right? But you're in control.
Right.
They can control the spot contract market, but they can't control the physical only market.
Huge. Thank you.
It is huge.
Thank you for that. And Lynette, again, as always, I appreciate your, like I say, wealth of knowledge.
Thank you. I'm trying to transfer it to
It's
you.
wonderful. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure
glad you
our
wanna
viewers
learn.
do as well. And I'm sure, all of us, we're, especially my generation, we're scared because we have been told to put that money in a 401k. Of course, our company's going to match it, what have you. But as, Lynette says, I mean, we've got to hold something that has intrinsic value instead.
Because a trillion times zero is still zero.
Zilch. All right. Well, as promised, I also do have a question from one of our viewers. And if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and ask you.
Please.
All right. So a question came in from Michael D. Hello, Lynette. Thank you very much for all of your hard work keeping the masses informed. I watched the gentleman Harry Dent on a recent YouTube video interview yesterday suggesting that there will be a horrible economic crash this year. Inflation will grow out of control and many bubbles that have created a super bubble will pop, leading to a large deflationary period that will last for several years. Mr. Dent suggested that holding gold and silver wouldn't be the worst position to be in, but gold and silver will lose much of its value during the long deflationary period that will follow. What are your thoughts and analysis on this kind of situation playing out?
Harry, if you're out there, let's have a debate. Because history has proven whether it's inflation or deflation, number one, they're the same coin, just the opposite sides. There is only one way to fight inflation, and that is with deflation. And there's only one way to fight deflation, and that is with inflation. So either way, number one, gold always outperforms during deflationary periods. So, yeah, Harry, let's have a debate. I completely, absolutely, and 100% disagree with you. But food, water, energy, security, barterability, wealth preservation, community, and shelter. These are the things that we need to gather. Barterability is silver for me, and wealth preservation is gold. That's what thousands of years of history has proven. And there is nothing, not one thing historically that has proven itself through deflationary as well as inflationary periods. That's where my money is, no doubt about it. And all the other parts of the mantra. That's a good question.
Wonderful. Well,
And
thank
Harry,
you.
again, if you're out there, let us know. And let's have a debate. Let's have a conversation about this.
All right, Michael, that was the answer to your question. And again, you guys, that's been another weekend of Gee Whiz Weekends. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that you continue to follow along. Make sure to like this post, comment, subscribe to the channel, click that bell to keep following along. And yeah, absolutely, because together we can make a positive difference. And we will also be continuing to answer your questions that you send in to questions@LynetteZhang.com, where I will be going through those and bringing those to, again, the wealth of knowledge herself. And we'll be actually doing those on a podcast. So keep an eye out. We're going to be uploading those wherever you find them. Tune in there as well. Thanks so much.
And until next we meet, please be safe out there. Bye-bye.
Bye now.